All right, let's get started. Hi everybody, welcome to this webinar on measuring the impact of emotions on CTR and quantifying emotions in marketing copy with AI. Today we'll talk through the impact of emotions, of emotions can have on engaging with customers, and share with you our new emotion editor. If you have questions, please type them in and we will get to them at the end of the session. So my name is Meredith Trudiak. I lead product marketing at CleverTap. I've worked in the mobile and engagement space for over 10 years, including some global brands like The Gap, Disney, and Electronic Arts. And I'm here presenting today with Jacob.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jacob. So after spending about a decade in investment banking, I took up data science about 8 years back. So been with CleverTap almost for 5 years and leading the data science team for roughly over a year. Over to you, Meredith.
Thanks, Jacob. So we're going to start this topic with a view of market conditions, then connect the emotion editor to our product vision, take a closer look at the data science that makes our emotion editor possible, and then share a product demo. We'll touch on some announcements and then go into Q&A. So let's start with a view of the market. Okay, so looking at market conditions today, so the global conditions today are unlike anything we have experienced before in our lifetimes. We definitely have people joining us in this webinar today from all over the world, and different countries are handling coronavirus with different levels of effectiveness. So I'm based in New York, and after 5 months, the US is still struggling as a country, but many people have settled into some kind of new normal, right? So the uncertainty we were all kind of shocked with, has transitioned into something else. So the COVID era conditions. So first, the phone is where our attention is, with fewer alternatives. So in some research published this past November, Americans were noted as checking their phones 96 times a day. And that's an increase of 20% over the last 2 years. So increasing phone usage in itself is nothing new, right? So that's been an ongoing trend globally for some time. The difference is that with many cities today still on partial or full lockdown, regardless of how often we are checking our phones, so I don't have a current number on this, this may be more or the same. I'm kind of doubting that it's less. We are being exposed to fewer alternatives. So we don't see other channels as much. We're not outside to see billboards. We're not seeing out-of-home placements on our commutes, or going to movie theaters to see ads. Events aren't happening. Digital streaming often skips commercials. So there is this kind of different sense about things. Things are opening up a little bit, but there's still a lot of attention and still a lot of time not being exposed to these channels that were, we were more exposed to previously. So even if you're a digital brand and you've never bought a billboard advertisement, there's going to be more and more increasing bids for attention on phones. Second, with COVID era, our COVID era conditions, is we are collectively exposed to lots of uncertainty. And it's kind of like, for many of us, we feel maxed out with this uncertainty. So with the coronavirus, with job security, with economic conditions, and not knowing when life will get back to normal, and even the upcoming elections for many of us, there's a lot going on today that is affecting people, and just having this sense of uncertainties, often the sense of fear, and a lot of people are kind of in this survival mode, just trying to get by with a lot of these changes that have been happening. And so there's a limit to what people can actually handle on this front. And then third, I wanted to point out is just crowded markets. And this has been, going on for years or several years at this point. This was present before coronavirus, but basically due to low barriers to entry and the democratization of platforms, markets are crowded. Anyone can create an app, anyone can start a YouTube channel or create content or even produce physical goods with different services and platforms that are available today. So looking at these market conditions, having this as a starting point, where do emotions come in? And the punchline kind of is positive emotions equals long-term customer loyalty. So to effectively kind of overcome these three market conditions that I just mentioned, it's all about focusing on long-term customer relationships and creating a feeling of joy and happiness. So why is this important to businesses? Loyal customers spend more. Loyal customers are more likely to recall and purchase a brand. And loyal customers promote the brands that they are loyal to. So if you think of the brands that you love, you think of the brands that you buy over and over again, what do you buy because it's on sale versus because you have some kind of emotional connection? And so I want to definitely distinguish, brand marketing from this kind of customer engagement marketing that is optimized for emotions, which is what we're going into with what we are offering with our emotion editor. Um, and because emotion engagement is different than brand engagement, right? Because brand engagement is a different type of marketing. But if you think of emotion engagement versus transactional engagement, that's kind of the differentiator here. Whereas transactional engagement you would think of as loyalty programs or discounts and sales, and loyalty programs that appeal to customers with discounts. Of those, 50% of consumers leave their transactional loyalty program accounts, and hundreds of millions in discounts go unclaimed. And that's because there's an emphasis on the rationality of things and that transactional engagement. Whereas today we're focusing on emotion engagement and how to do that well. So let's walk through what this looks like in the real world with an example. So I find the retail space very fascinating. So even before the pandemic, the industry has been undergoing a massive transformation. There were many established and new players. So again, those lower barriers to entry, and many ways to just create more, especially clothing retail is what I'm focused on here. Um, this massive transformation has been caused by a number of factors, right? So online shopping was a huge disruptor for brick and mortar. The 2008 financial crisis was a huge disruptor and kicked off a cycle of discounting that's never really ended and has impacted long-term brand value. And now coronavirus. So what does this look like today? In the US, 9,500 stores closed in 2019. 25,000 are predicted to close by the end of 2020. Gap Inc. couldn't pay rent on 2,800 stores in the US. And major brands are going bankrupt, right? So J. Crew, Neiman Marcus, JCPenney. These are US brands, but this is a fairly global phenomenon. So instead of, and I don't want to do a whole focus on like what's happened, right, to get to this point. But it's really about, but who's surviving, right? So these are things that, we need clothing, we need, like these are a necessity. So who's surviving and what does this industry look like going forward? And going beyond kind of Amazon and Walmart, I'm looking at finding another example of who's doing this well and doing well in the pandemic. So at the start of the pandemic in the US, right, there was a lot of uncertainty, and just one email made a huge difference for one company. So that's the one story of success that I'm going to focus on here. So Entire World is a smaller clothing brand inside the US. I would not be surprised if no one has heard of this brand, but it's, this is just kind of the story of a small player in the space and how they've done well here. So on March 15th, a few days after the entire country's shut down, the founder sent an email to their 30,000 subscribers. And in this email, it was honest, it connected to how everyone was feeling that day. And this one email led to the brand selling out of inventory in both March and April of this year during the pandemic. And that led to a 662% increase in year-over-year sales. And so while other companies had sales, And some other companies actually ignored the shutdown, right? They didn't pivot fast enough to respond to the conditions of the world. This one company sent this email that really led to meaningful engagement with its customers. Um, and so I point this out as an example to show how powerful emotion can be in engagement marketing. Emotions, and while this is kind of like one big example, emotions can be impactful in everyday customer engagements too. And it's important to look at the difference between that emotional type engagement and the transactional type engagement. So connecting this to our product vision, why, what are we doing at CleverTap to make this possible and create a tool that helps our customers engage and take emotion into account. So if you think about the engagement formula, which I look at as basically the 5 W's, you have why, which is the strategy, who, what, where, and when. And I think a lot of people on the call are current customers. So you can kind of see how these are the pieces that are included with any engagement campaign that you send out. So why is kind of determined outside of the platform, and it's the market opportunity, growing the business, building awareness. Why do you want to have this engagement campaign? The second is who, and we do a lot on segmentation here, automated segmentation, and we have predictive segmentation as well. Then what is the message, right? Which is the words and images. Where is the channel? Whether it's push or email or in-app message. And then time is when the customer receives the message. So with all of these pieces, we have different tools to optimize across them. But the emotion editor fits in here in the what area, where you're really tuning the words to drive more of an engagement for the customer and create some emotions and tune that emotion mix that actually drive results. And so with the emotion analysis and the product vision on the bigger scale, right now tool is for anyone outside of our platform. But in the long-term vision, it'll be incorporated in our platform. You'll be able to understand individual users and their response and preferences for different types of emotions and create campaign variations incorporating the different emotions. And so the long term here is that in addition to the other ways that you can optimize a message and optimize visuals inside of a message, is optimizing the emotions inside a message to really respond to an individual and what works best for them. So now we're going to go into the data science of it, and I'm going to hand this over to Jacob.
So we needed a model for the emotions, to model the emotions in marketing, right? So what did we do? We looked at various models by various, researchers, and we came across Dr. Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. Now, this was a paper that was first released in 1958, and various editions were made over the years by Dr. Robert. And what it does, it gives out a wheel of emotions. So what it says is human beings have 8 basic emotions ranging from anticipation, joy, fear, surprise, trust, anger, sadness, and disgust. These are the 8 basic emotions. And there are some 24 derivative emotions. So you see this concentric circle. So this circle is the 8 basic emotions. And as you go down the circle, the emotions become stronger. So for example, anger, the stronger emotion is rage. And if you go up, the lighter emotion is annoyance. And if you look at the interaction between anger and anticipation, you will get aggressiveness. So, so we sort of found it very useful this wheel of emotions, and how Dr. Robert Plotkin has kind of come up with such a beautiful model. So the next step was fine. Now that we know what are the basic emotions that human beings deal with, the next part is to basically model it, give a number, attach a number to it. So we get, so what we get is some messages which is in the form of text. Now, in order to derive a value out of it, a number out of it, right, for the emotion, we need to convert this text into some numerical value. Now, Google had come out with a very strong natural language processing model in sometime late in 2018. And what it does is basically it kind of processes words in relation to all other words in the sentence. That means it maintains the context of the word. For example, take for example the word bank. Now, bank can be used in various contexts. It can be your savings account, a bank account, or it can be the river bank, right? So the value for these two words has to be different, and that's what BERT does. So we kind of went with the BERT, and BERT, mind you, it's used in Google search. It's used in various translation tasks, and there are many applications of BERT. So what we thought is, okay, we selected BERT to basically transform our words into numerical values depending upon what context it is coming from. The next part is fine. Now, we need to look at, this emotions. What we are trying to do is we're trying to do some engagement marketing, right? Now, usually what happens, so even though we have those 8 basic emotions, normally in engagement marketing, right, you will seldom come across situations where the marketer sends out a message which evokes anger, sadness, or disgust. So what we thought, let's not go with all the 8 emotions. We'll stick with the 5 emotions, which is anticipation, joy, fear, surprise, and trust. So then we thought, okay, are these relevant? Is this marketing lingo? So fear was something which was not in tune with it. So we converted fear to FOMO. What is FOMO? Is fear of missing out. So suppose you're sending a time-bound promotions, right? It kind of instills a FOMO, fear of missing out. It is closely related to fear though, but in marketing lingo, it is FOMO. So that's how we kind of came with this 5 emotions, which is anticipation, joy, FOMO, surprise, and trust. So now we had to put all these together. So the words from the messages, right? We had to convert it into a numerical value, which we did with BERT, and we combined it because sentences are a collection of words. Now so we aggregated those value and did some operations to get the sentence value, and from there we went to how it relates to each of those 5 emotions and came out with a number. So I'll go through the product demo, it will become clear for you. So you land up with on emotions.CleverTap, and this is the emotion editor on which you can type out your message. So let's take an example. So this is the example. Check out our amazing offers on new launches. So what does this give? So this it says that, there is the highest emotion over here is anticipation with 25%, and followed by joy is 23%. And trust is 22%, surprise is 20%, and FOMO is the lowest with just 11%. The total of all these will sum up to 100%. And what is this, right? These kind of gives you what is the impact of each word on a specific emotion. For example, take for example, joy. Every word contributes to this 23%, but some words have a higher contribution. So look at this word amazing. Now, if I remove the word amazing from this message, the joy will drop by 6%. So let's look at that. So it is expected to come to around 16 odd percent. So see, the joy is dropped by around 6%. So this kind of gives you some impact of each of the words. So if you further want to remove certain words, you can hover over this, and some have positive and some have negative impact. So likewise, you can change your messaging and see what better works for you. So now there is one. Now this kind of doesn't only work for short form messages, but also long form messages. So for example, like email or posts, LinkedIn post, or some other long form. So for example, recently my CEO Sunil had posted one LinkedIn post. In that, he had put out a post about the emotion editor, and this was asking for feedback. So it is a long form kind of a thing. And let's see, what does it give out? Yeah, so it gives out about 43% anticipation on for this text. So if you see over here, there are some things which are not highlighted. So what happens, though the emotion is calculated for the entire text, the impact is calculated only up to the first 40 words. So that is generally because, for long form text, individual words, removing individual words may not have a big impact, but combination of words, those are phrases like that, might have an impact. So in our next version, we will also have, we'll also cover this situation wherein we will cover phrases rather than just words for long form sentences. So this is with respect to long form, but definitely, you can create any long form text and see, what is the emotion evoked by those text. Now let's look at another example wherein, suppose the marketer here wants to create some FOMO, right? This kind of works, right? 50% off on shoes, offer valid till supplies, while supplies last. So let's see, what's the, so this is expected, high FOMO over here, followed by trust. Now, if in this case, suppose, the marketer is not happy with the percentage, 34%, maybe wants to increase it further. So maybe let's tweak certain words over here and see, what could be the impact. So now I'm creating a real call to action where, it's offer valid only till midnight. Now, intuitively, it does make sense that, this will have a higher FOMO. Let's see, what's the impact over here. So roughly it's kind of doubled. The FOMO has kind of doubled, and you will see, every like 50, right? If you take out 50, the FOMO will drop by around 26%. Likewise for other offer valid till midnight, like midnight has a high impact on the FOMO. Let's take another example where probably, you wanted to reduce FOMO. So this is another text wherein it's saying that, is your logistic operation suffering during this lockdown, and asking for trials and services. So here the FOMO, it's giving around 42%, followed by surprise. And let me change the structure of the sentence. So here suffering and all kind of, it's kind of positively contributing towards the FOMO. But if I change from a negative to a kind of a positive reinforcement, now it's kind of change, So earlier it was saying that, your logistic operation may be suffering, right? It was giving a solution by drawing attention to a problem. Here, it is selling the solution by giving certain positive reinforcement, like, okay, you stop worrying, we have your back. So this is the way, you could change your emotions and play with it. Your emotions in the message and play with it, basically, to suit your brand tonality or what works with your audience. Um, Great. Now, the story doesn't end over here, right? Now you might have your own, you might want to know, okay, is this the best brand tonality that works with my audience, right? I mean, whether whether using more of joy or trust makes more sense rather than FOMO. Is it that single bullet, that which would, cure your engagement issues or increase your CTR, right? So we have a solution for that. You can go to you can hit the Get My Free report and upload your past campaigns, historical data of your campaigns and your CTRs. Let me give you an example of the data that you need to upload. So this is a sample CSV. Let me just quickly stop sharing.
And while you're pulling that up, so we got a question about, do we compare these to benchmarks? And so that's what this report will show. So if you're just in the emotion editor, you're really just getting a sense of the emotion mix, but it's when you look at the emotions and how that's performed over your CTR, then you can get a sense of a benchmark. And the benchmark, it's important to note that it's really unique to whatever you're doing. So back to you, Jacob, to explain this more.
Yeah. So just continuing on that, we have done a certain research on this, and we have found that this is what works within for app within an industry may not work for another app because the audience may be different, and there is because if you talk about retail, right, there are various retail. There are some high end, maybe some fine fashion, maybe grocery, maybe some other industries, other companies within the industry. So you need to have an answer what works with your audience rather than the general answer. So you need to have two columns, basically, text and CTR. Now CTR, here we have, so these are non-negotiable. You need to have these columns only, text and CTR with this capital letters. So here you can put the message, now whatever campaigns you're setting, and against that you can put your CTR. Now CTR can be, you can have your likes over there or shares over there. So it need not be just the click-through rate, or it may be even the conversions over there. So that we will leave up to you, but you have to maintain the column headers. That you can't change, but the values you can change. So there is another option where you don't give out the CTR and just give out the text part. But I feel if you want to know what works with your audience, you need to have this column as well. So once you have this, so the next step is you upload this CSV. You upload this CSV and just put your name and email address, and that's it. And you will your customized report will be generated for you, and you will receive it in your inbox in some time. So now let me go back and show you how does this sample report look like. Cool. So the sample CSV that we saw had some 40 campaigns in that. And what this first piece of information gives you is that across your campaigns, on an average, 35% was FOMO in your message, followed by 20% joy, 17% was anticipation, and the least was surprise with 10%. So the next bit of information is, okay, you might have 35% FOMO on an average, but what is your dominant message? Means the highest emotion in a specific message. So here out of 40, 15 were where FOMO was the dominant emotion. Now this may be different for different apps. So sometimes we have seen that even though the distribution says that 35% was FOMO, but if you look at dominant, it was even higher than that. So FOMO was generally the dominant in most of your messages. In many cases, we have seen those kind of insights. The next bit of interesting insight, and it's I feel the most valuable insight here, is the joy as an emotion is uplifting your CTRs by more than 10% in the sample output. So what it does is it gives you the average CTR for joy and compares the average CTR across your campaigns. And that's how we have come out with this number. So for example, if in this case it's 10%, right? If your CTR was, say, for example, 20%, and joy in this case would be 22% CTR. So that is an uplift of 10% from 20%. And surprise kind of pulls down your CTR by roughly around, I think 9%. So maybe what you can do is now you can use more of joy. I understand, you can't have a message which is very FOMO heavy to suddenly, kind of make joy as a dominant one. But sometime back, we looked at that logistics message kind of wherein, the 41% was FOMO, and just converting from a negative to a positive reinforcement, joy came out the highest. I am not a good copywriter, but I think the copywriters out there will have the answer for these kind of things. So this is the interesting insight. Another piece of valuable insight is now the phrases which are contributing to the most joy. Now here in the campaigns that was uploaded, these are some of the phrases that were extracted. So it's not just words, but it's phrases. So quick festival fasting tips. So that was having a high positive impact on joy as an emotion. So now probably, you can use these phrases more in your campaigns to invoke a particular emotion more. Then, anticipation had this, gold auspicious occasion, moderately positive, season, again is anticipation. FOMO, discount coupon was highly positive. A special discount coupon, acne myths. Then surprise, it was used less in the campaigns, right? And very low percentage, just 10% in the, as you saw earlier. And most of the phrases that we got, it was neutral impact. So we didn't get any phrases which had a very high surprise factor in this. So what we are seeing is the top phrases which is contributing to a particular emotions. So in this, like trust, so purest gold, comfort home. So that was having a high positive impact on trust. So this is on the phrases side of things. Next is the phrase analysis by CTR. Now this is interesting. Now what we do over here is we take your campaigns and rank it. The top 25 percentile, we look at those campaigns and we look at phrases which have occurred in those campaigns. Now, here what it says that across the campaigns, across those 40 campaigns, the top 25 percentile had a CTR of 2.85% and higher. And these phrases were occurring only in those top 25 percentile. They weren't occurring in the bottom 25 percentile. So these are the most positive kind of phrases from the CTR side also. And the color of these phrases shows the dominant emotion it has. So I think blue was trust, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, blue is trust, red is FOMO. So this is FOMO, and the others is anticipation and joy, offers and tips. The worst performing is these occur only in the bottom 25 percentile of your by CTR, arranged by CTR. And these are phrases which have occurred both in the top and the bottom 25 percentile, because there are cases wherein you are running certain campaigns, maybe on a regular basis, and sometimes these phrases have occurred in campaigns which are in the top 25 percentile, and sometimes also in the bottom 25 percentile. Whereas these campaigns have occurred only in the bottom 25 percentile, and these have occurred only the top 25 percentile. So these guys are consistent performers. These guys are consistent losers. These guys are You can't say. Next bit of information is the leaderboard of the emotion-wise messages. So here we are saying that, okay, for anticipation, what are the messages which had most anticipation? And we have arranged in the descending order. So we are still holding Puma Blade Runner for you. Act fast if you want it. As far as anticipation was concerned, this was the highest one. Obviously, there are it could have other emotions as well, because the anticipation is 34%. The rest 66% has to be accounted by the other four. But as far as anticipation was concerned, this was the highest one. If you're talking about FOMO, get 30% off on all fashions, valid only for today. This had a 90% FOMO. So this was a top one. And also we have the CTR against it, but CTR is not arranged as per the descending order. Only the percentage of the FOMO or percentage of the emotions are arranged as per the descending order. So joy, again, very high joy, 9-day detox fasting tips for your body, soul, eat healthy this new year, right? And so on for surprise. So surprise, since it was sparsely used in the messaging itself, that's thereby these percentages also are less. But if you see, surprise was 10% average across the campaigns. And here there are some messages which are like almost thrice compared to the average. And followed by trust. So this is quite a comprehensive report that you can generate for free, and which will give you exactly what works with your audience, what messages have been dominant, what was the CTR attached with those messages, and then you probably can take some calculated decision on how to tweak your messaging towards a particular emotion. Okay, over to you, Medit. Let me just go to the next slide.
And thanks, Jacob. So we wanted to put together some quick conclusions. So overall, emotions matter for effective engagement. This tool and the analysis report both gives you the opportunity to look at emotions for your audience and see how to optimize, right? Because whether you're paying attention to emotions or not, they are impacting what the actual click-through rate is. Also, we are individuals with unique behaviors and preferences, so there is variation on an individual level. Brands tend to attract certain types of customers. So you can think about this even, in the US, we have a very popular brand called the Dollar Shave Club. So obviously it's a more male-focused brand. And so maybe that audience responds to different emotions, overall than something that's more female focused. And then there are variations within that audience itself. So that would be the different segments that behave differently. And then of course, especially given what's going on today, global conditions can affect, emotions, of course, and then also our outlook and how we would potentially engage with a brand. Next.
So this was some of the interesting, this is actual client reports that, we've generated, and some of the findings that we got from actual data, right? So these are a couple of examples that we have put out. Here, the joy was uplifting the CTR by around 14%. And in this case, anticipation was increasing the CTR by 21%. So even though the FOMO was primary emotion in both of these. Also, I see some messages on the chat. One message was whether, this works on non-English. So currently we support only English. We do not support non-English, but we plan to introduce support in the future. It's in the roadmap, it's under the development stage.
Great. And then we just have a couple quick announcements before we get to the rest of the questions. So we are having a product hunt upvote campaign on August 19th. If you are enjoying using the tool and you test it out, we would really appreciate your support. So we'll send out more information about that coming up. And then also the CleverTap quarterly event, we're kicking off a new initiative where every quarter we're going to share out in a larger type virtual event everything that we're working on and that's being released to really connect with our customers. So that's coming up on September 9th. Save the date and an invite will come out to you in the future. So getting to our Q&A, we have a few minutes left. So happy to answer the questions that are coming up. So when will it go live? So everything that Jacob just walked through is live today. So I think is it emotions.clevertap.com is the URL. You can also discover it on our website. As far as in the product itself, that's kind of a longer term initiative, but definitely everything that we walked through today is available now. Jacob, a question on, do you publish a collection of words, glossary for each emotion, or how do you recommend people understand which words to use for that?
Okay, so the model that we are using, right, it doesn't accord a standard emotion value for each word because it always depends on context. So the kind of example that I had given earlier, right, a word in English can change the meaning of the sentence depending upon what context it is being used. So having a glossary might not help. But I think, copywriters are smart enough to, change the tone of the sentence. And what the editor can do is give a value for that. So I don't have a glossary for the emotions as such. But then, you please, you can check out what each word once you type out the sentence, like I showed, amazing had a particular impact on the sentence, right? Removing the amazing word, right? It just dropped the joy by about 6%. So you can experiment on that and create your own copy experiment and arrive at your answer.
Great. On to some other questions. So do inputs need to be provided in text form? Yes, currently it's a text editor, so they definitely have to be in text form. And what about when a creative has multiple lines of copy in it? So in that instance, you can copy all the lines of copy. If they're on the same page, they're probably being perceived at the same time by a customer. So you can definitely put all of those in the editor at the same time and see how they collectively, what impact that has. Another question, is this a paid tool or can we use it for free? It's 100% free. You can go to the URL, use the text editor and get that individualized report for free. So it definitely has a lot of value.
There are no strings attached. There are
no strings attached. So here's a question. How are context and fatigue factored in the algorithm?
Sorry, context.
How are context and fatigue factored in the algorithm?
Yeah, so the context, so the BERT as such, right, it kind of takes care of the context. And obviously we also have some proprietary stuff built on top of that to arrive at the emotions. So you can check it for yourself, and you can research on your own with respect to BERT, how it has transformed the natural language modeling. And you can try out on the editor itself, how the emotions change if the context is changed. Also on the fatigue part, the emotion report, right? You can look at that aspect wherein the phrases which have occurred in the top and the bottom, right? These kind of give you an example of those phrases which have started to generate customer fatigue, because these are occurred in both the top and bottom quartile of your messaging by CTR or by any other KPI that you have. So that kind of gives you, and then obviously, this is not you can't consider this as just the silver bullet, right? You need to complement this with a good testing tool, A/B testing or multivariate testing. And you have tools such as CleverTap or your own tool, which would have that capability. And I would encourage you to use those tools to complement the insight from the emotion editor. So for example, if the emotion report tells you that use more of joy, create campaigns, A/B testing campaigns, and check out messages which had your default, which has more FOMO, and the other message which has joy, and test it on your audience and see for yourself whether this makes sense.
Great. Yeah, we have a lot of great questions. I know we're at time, but Jacob and I will stay on a little bit longer to make sure all the remaining questions are answered. So we have about 7 questions left. Since every individual has different set of responsive emotions, how do you know these user segments?
Okay. So currently in the tool that is available, which is available to the public for free, we can't go at the individual level, right? We have to look at what works for your audience at an aggregate level. But in our product, when it's going to be incorporated in our product, we can definitely go at the individual level because we'll have the data, how the individuals have responded to particular campaigns in the past, and basis that we can generate. Okay, Meredith is responds more to joy-based campaign. Jacob responds to more FOMO-based campaign. Now I can create 5 different variants of the same message and send it as per the user preference.
Great. Another question, how is the accuracy of the model? Thinking about the other content like images, GIFs, CTA inside the email.
Yeah,
That's a
so currently, that's a great question, actually. Currently currently we're looking at just the text. And in future, we'll come up with the other ingredients also, like, but obviously, the images also play a part, but the text in that images, right? That can be taken care with respect to the emotion editor. And now the other ingredients of the image could be colors and some other things. That is an additional input to the model. But the core of this, whatever beautiful the colors or the design will be, ultimately, the text forms a very core part of it. So you have the base ingredient in place with respect to the emotion editor. Now we only need to build on top of it, which will have, which is also under development.
Great. Another question, does it happen that the emotions fluctuate according to the length of the copy?
According to the line, no, it depends upon what the words used and the context of the words. It doesn't.
Is there a difference if just 10 words or 30 words?
No, it doesn't matter. It depends upon, how those words are come together in aggregate.
Great. Let's see. Should we consider phrases with median FOMO?
Phrases with median FOMO. I didn't understand the question.
I'm guessing on the report where it just shows you the things that are just kind of in the middle. Like, how would you strategically approach the things that just kind of land in the middle?
Okay, with the ones which are in the top as well as the bottom 25 percentile, right? Maybe, you can, so first of all, those are basis the CTR, and the colors of the phrases are basis the dominant emotion. Now, if you're talking about the phrases which occur in both places, right? You need to look at the campaigns, closely. What campaigns were they occurring in? And see, why, is there excessive use of those campaigns, or, how, look at the time decay, right? How is the deterioration in the performance happening? And then you might get certain insights. We are giving you a direction in which you need to look at. And instead of looking at everything in one go, you are very focused in what you need to look at, and then you might come out with some insight on your own that yes, this is something we shouldn't be using more. Maybe this message has occurred only twice. So suppose you have sent a message, this message 10 times, right? Maybe first couple of times it occurred in the top 25 percentile, and the rest 8 times it has occurred in the bottom 25 percentile. I think you should not run those campaigns, or maybe you should discourage to run those campaigns. But there could be certain phrases which have occurred just probably maybe once or twice in the bottom, and majority of the times it has occurred in the top only. So maybe you could give that phrase a benefit of doubt and continue using that phrase. So what that piece of insight gives you, okay, maybe you need to dig deeper into those phrases.
Great. How do we analyze the data when we use quirky content, special fonts, emojis, and special characters in copies of push notifications, especially as a number of players are using the same?
Okay, so currently this doesn't take into account, those kind of factors like fonts and stuff like that. This is pure text. Because, whatever you do, right, the first thing that catches, what the thing that, makes sense is the text, right? You have the best of fonts, but if you have the message which doesn't resonate, right, with your audience, I doubt it will get you the required desired output, because the text in this is the fundamental thing. So whatever you do is on the top of that. So you will get some additional, in my opinion, you might get some additional kicker, but I think the base is the text.
Great. All right. So this is a long question. So can each campaign have something like emotion scorecard in its report? Similarly, can we have it against each customer, which emotional type message she is most likely to respond to? This score might be different for different day or time of the day or week. So if I'm sending message at 8 a.m. on Monday, I will use different emotions. Whereas if I am sending message on 5 p.m. on Friday.
Yes, absolutely. So, but once this is available in our product, right? You can trend the emotions. You can trend basis, different time periods or time of the day. So you can do a lot of analysis once it's baked into our product. But we can do that much only in the one tool which is available freely, but which is a very good insight, which is there, which you can discover currently. Obviously, if it's available in the product, it will be much more powerful. And all these questions that you have raised will be kind of, you'll have the answer for that. And if you have to do something like this, you want to discover something like, maybe what time of the day, what you can do is you can create, say, you want to have what works, in the morning compared to what works in the afternoon, what comes from the evening and in the night. Create 4 different CSVs and upload it, one by one. You create the CSV for the morning hours, get the report, create the CSV for the afternoon, get the report, create the CSV for the evening. So likewise, you will get different report for different customized reports. There is no restriction on the number of reports you can generate with this free tool, right? So only thing you have to wait for till the first report is generated and lands in your inbox. That's the only restriction. And you can and 1,000 campaigns at one go can be analyzed. So that's the only 2 restrictions. Apart from that, you can create, you want to create your report for a specific segment of users, maybe, high value users, low value, gold, platinum, whatever, right? All those things you can create a CSV and, upload and generate and see for yourself. So right now it might seem manual, which might be automated in the product.
Great. Several more questions remaining. So would this webinar recording be available somewhere for future reference? Yes, everyone who is registered for this webinar, whether they attended the live session or not, will receive a recording in email. Within 24 hours, we'll send a follow-up email. Let's see. So can I get a more personalized or customizable report based on my needs?
Yeah, you can send it, basically the CSV that you upload, right? Create for those specific segments and upload one by one. And that's how you'll get customized one. So that's actually some of the questions, I had also encountered, earlier, wherein there are usually now customers, what they are doing is they are breaking down their segments and, sending separate scenes. And thereby they are getting those insights.
Do we have a feasibility to check what emotion that a particular user is most likely to respond to? So I think that's the same in the platform. When it's in the platform, we'll get to that level of detail. So how is it possible that the same word in the same sentence gets a different value? Because I just tried it and that's what happened.
So the position of the word will be changed, most probably. So if you change the structure of the sentence, right, the position, then you'll get a different emotion. If you try for the same sentence, you'll get the same emotion for sure. But if you change the structure, then you'll get a different, because words have the context of the word will change depending upon where the word is used.
Right. And if you have a phrase like, you know, come get this amazing offer. We have a sale on amazing, you know, goods, right? So even having amazing, the same word twice in the same phrase could be different just based on how the phrase is. Because again, with how the data science works and how the BERT model works, it's based on that phrase, the phrase and how the words are grouped together. All right, so I believe the editor reads the whole sentence while often CTR decisions are made on the basis of the first few words, especially for subject lines and notifications, which are the only visible part. How does one work around that?
Just send the title then. Don't send the entire text body. Just send the title.
Simple. This translates the emojis into Unicode, but does it try to detect the sender's intent in an emoji string,
Okay,
sarcasm, or
that's a great question. We please send text, don't send emojis. So yeah, that's as simple as that. So this is for English text only, right? Uh, so when the dictionary was made, probably the emojis were not there during that time.
Great. And how do you attribute emotions to numbers?
Yeah, that's where the BERT comes in. And we have used our own proprietary stuff to convert, to see how these numerical values of the sentence corresponds to the specific emotions, the 5 emotions.
Great. How do you control the audience for which the copy is being tested?
I didn't understand this question. How do you control the
Control
copy?
the audience for which the copy is being tested. Maybe this is the A/B testing different types of copies. So that, I mean, that would, if that's the question, if that's the meaning of the question, that's really dependent on what tool you're using. I know within CleverTap you can choose many different types of segments to test on. And the last question, so will there be another segment where you can tell us about how we can draft more emotionally bound content? That's a great question. So we can kind of regroup. If there's demand for that, we can definitely cover that topic in the future. So we will keep that in mind for a future session, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. That concludes our Q&A. We are at the top of the hour. Thank you for everybody who stayed on with us this entire time. We will be sending a follow-up email with the webinar recording and a few other things, but we look forward to engaging with you in the future about this and other releases that we do. Thank you very much and hopefully see you next time.
Yeah,
Bye.
do write to us if you have any queries on the tool.
Perfect. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.